Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the game streams, website, and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining some access to some of the exclusive features in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity. You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search, focus that fire. And so we come together. Join us. Join the discussion. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat. Welcome back for episode 128 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on April 13th over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Our topic for tonight's episode is going to be a look at Benedict 9940. But first, let's run through a quick introduction of those on the show for tonight. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. We also have with us the man who has been said has the voice of a flower, an individual who goes by many names, Justin Sane 0516. What guys do you have on for us tonight, Justin?
My name is Benedict. It's kind of a reach.
Cumberbatch?
It's hard. Yeah, no, I wanted to work the Cumberbatch in, but
yay!
You know,
but you went with 99.
Be a reach.
You went with 99.40 ounces instead.
99.40 ounce. Yeah. It's always a reach when the subject is already a person's name. Like that's rough. But yeah, it's great to be back. Nice to talk to you guys again about stuff and things and
things and stuff.
And I hope to go the distance, is all I could say.
Well, next up, we have our own master of social media, the one and only Green Eye Music Lover. Green, I hope you're doing well. How's the week treated you so far?
It's good. I've actually got an audience in the room with me at the moment, so this is going to be an interesting episode.
So you're practicing live streaming, literally.
Yeah, kind of. Except for they have no idea what you guys are saying, so it's a one-sided conversation. But yeah, my sister and her boyfriend came up for the weekend, and they're hanging out with us. We're going to go do some touristy type things tomorrow and go up to Rocky Mountain National Park and do some things and stuff and things. You know, it's good.
Nice.
Good.
Well, I know real quick, last week we asked the community, is Benedict the original sweeper bot from Destiny 1? And I'm assuming that Green has a pretty good collection of responses from what I saw over on Twitter.
Oh,
so I'm gonna hand it over to her for the collections of answers.
So the community feedback question was actually, is Benedict 9940 the same sweeper bot that whistles during the collapse of the tower during the homecoming mission? We had a actually bigger spread than I thought we would on this one. 57% said yes, 17% said no, 26% said maybe. We had a few interesting ideas, either just like complete and utter devotion to Shax was showing up again, because, you know, you would need more Shax. Lady Shax.
Lady Shax.
But some of the things, like people had headcanon saying that they think Shax and Zavala carried him out over their shoulder, or it's obvious that it's the same type of bot, or it's the same bot that we had before, or it's obvious that it's sweeper bot. It's like, well, we're gonna get into it, but yeah, there's It's really funny. It's just people are like, yes, 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 or it's either they're really, really devoted to their answer on the whole thing, or they're just like, this is my headcanon.
Well, I know. I actually really enjoyed seeing some of the responses for this week, and I know we always love hearing everyone's feedback. This week, actually, we are not going to have a question because, as I'll kind of get into here in the intro notes, we're actually going to take next week off for the podcast because I'm going to be going down and hanging out with Justin for some stuff in good old Texas. Justin,
Stuff.
Yeah.
Like your brother's wedding?
Yeah, that one.
Is that
that's next week, yeah.
So, hey, Blue. You gonna chicken dance with me?
Yes.
No, but my son might. Like, so we were trying on suits to make sure that, you know, the little guy's suits still fit, because suits are expensive. Okay.
Yeah, he's really let himself go.
Yeah, I know he has. But like the crazy thing is like for 4-year-olds or for toddlers in general, that suit is the same cost as a normal size suit. So my wife and I, what we did is we went out and bought just went out and bought a suit, which is actually significantly cheaper. Problem being, we did that like a couple months ago when we were for my wife's sister. So yeah, it was a running test on the suit thing, and that was, I think I posted that yesterday. So yeah, Justin, you'll probably have a very excited 4-year-old to do the chicken dance with.
Nice.
There needs to be a video of the FFC chicken dance.
FFC chicken dance. Hashtag that.
Oh man. Well, real quick, I know everyone is looking forward to diving into the discussion, so let's run through our standard intro notes and then get right into it. And Green, did you have something, or are you good for?
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay. Cool. All right, so here we go. In the last episode of Focus Fire Chat, we discussed Asher Mir. If you ever miss an episode and would like to catch up, please be sure to check out focusfirechat.com for archives, articles, and links to the other aspects of Focus Fire Chat. If you don't mind, please rate and, if you can, review the show on iTunes, Podbean, or whichever podcasting app you use to enjoy podcasts. Reviews in particular are extremely helpful as they help us show up on charts, and that helps others find the FFC community. To those of you who have already taken the time to leave us a review, thank you again. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Friday, at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a high-level summary of the previous week's chat for those who are unable to participate. Please be sure to also give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network, links of which can be found in our show notes or on our website. Note that next week we are going to be taking a break, but let us know by weighing in on the poll this weekend which topic you want to discuss when we get back. Links to that poll can be found on either Twitter at FocusFireChat or within our Discord server. I asked Green to put together a high-level summary of tonight's topic, and this is what she had to say.
An interesting side effect of working within a world where we are on the edge of historical importance is that for characters like Benedict, there are no prior records, since his own adaptation is assumed to be recent. The only clues we have are from him directly, and thus the reliability of said statements are tenuous at best. But we are not without any context in this discussion. There were a limited number of frames designated 9940 in the Grimoire, and it is with their history we can piece together this current mystery.
Before we jump into the information and thoughts that the community had about Benedict 9940, however, let's take a look at this week's Lost Lore. So I think the best actually lost lore for this one is actually a topic that you mentioned directly right there, Green. And also excuse me. I also saw a small conversation about it on Twitter is, the difference in the numbering schemes of the models of frames. And to be honest, we don't really know what the point of the different numbering process is. We do know that there are two predominant models, I guess is the easiest way to describe them. And that is the 9940 and the 5530s. Real quick, the 5530s, let's just go, I guess, numerically. 5530s, the basic difference is that these, you can see the difference in what I guess you would call the head. A 5530 has a flat-topped head with a very small circular eye, and a 9940 has a more typical humanoid shape head, and they usually have a larger square eye. And we're going to get into Benedict's particular difference even from the other 9940s, in the episode. But we actually do have a good number of frames in both designations throughout the game. Most of the 5530s, actually, I think everyone except for Roni is a postmaster. So predominantly your 5530s are, it seems like they're a little bit less autonomous, I guess you could say. There is a really funny one, Gabby actually has a nickname Lefty because apparently Gabby really likes the wolves of the Iron Temple.
Yeah,
and
that's where she's at most of the time.
Yeah, so the mechanics and the Iron Temple nicknamed Gabby Lefty because apparently it likes getting close. It likes getting too close to the wolves a lot during feeding time. But and so you have on the 5530s, you have Darby, Gabby, Caddy, Syntha, and then Roni. And the only one of those that is not a postmaster is Roni, who is the Vanguard quartermaster and who is the brunt of a lot of practical jokes from Cade. That Cade is constantly trying to trick into doing stuff. And then the one that a lot of people will probably be familiar with 5530s is actually Caddy. That is the postmaster that's in the tower, and I believe, I didn't get a chance to confirm this, but I believe Caddy is still with us in Destiny 2 as the postmaster. Do you guys know off the top of your head?
Caddy was at the farm, wasn't she?
I think Katie's at the farm.
No, Darby's at the farm.
Darby's at the farm? I need to go back and look then. I have
listed... Yeah, I have listed Darby. So Darby's the postmaster in the farm. Gabby or Lefty is postmaster in Iron Temple. Caddy is the postmaster in the tower. And then Syntha was the postmaster in the Vestian outpost. And then Roni is the quartermaster.
Logging back in. I'll verify in a second.
Yeah, I guess my question on that is I can't remember. I know I'm pretty sure Caddy was the original postmaster. So I'm just curious if we kept Caddy or if we got another name. So while Green checks that real quick, I'm going to jump to 9940s. This is also another frame. So there's a difference between frames and exos, which we'll get into a little bit here, but the 9940s that we do know about are Archite, Benedict, Dahlia, Berg, Micah, and Xander. Now, the first three, I'm going to set aside for just a second. The last three, which are Berg, Micah, and Xander, those are all bounty trackers. Berg is the bounty tracker from Vestian Outpost. Micah is the bounty tracker in the Iron Temple. And then we also have Xander, who was the original bounty tracker in Destiny. We do not have a bounty tracker in Destiny 2, so Xander is... I'm not sure if Xander's still around or not. But the other thing, and we're going to go back to the first three. So Archite and Dahlia are actually Redjacks. Archite is also the Crucible Quartermaster. Dahlia and Archite are both some of the, if not the original frames that Shaxx interacts with. They are they're labeled as his personal combat frames.
They're the first assigned to him.
Yeah, well, and the only reason I hesitate to say that definitively is that Dahlia's designation is Unit 07. So I think they were part of the first crew. I don't know, I don't know. I think Arkite's designation while he was in the field was either 00 or 01. I'm remembering off the top of my head.
They were part of the original crew that went with him, is what I'm saying. They're not the replacement Red Jacks. They're some of the originals that went.
And Dahlia is a frame that we...
Thank you, Trigger.
Yeah, Trigger, thank you. Kadi is still at the tower. Okay, perfect. Dahlia is the current alpha designate of the Red Jacks. And this is the frame that the mechanics refer to as the oh god, I just blanked on. Is it the Antiquity? I believe.
I don't.
I want to say her nickname is the Antiquity. Like, and they're like, I think the phrase about her is like, there's more fallen blades and bullets in her chassis than.
Oh yeah,
she's just.
She's kind of the old horse. So
well, and the interesting thing with Dahlia is that there is also a note that Dahlia's programming is super resistant to being overwritten. And if she comes in contact with other Red Jacks, her programming overrides them. Like she like her presence will actually override the prerogatives of other Red Jacks, and we're going to get into that too because there's a scannable that's a very interesting one with Dahlia and Arkite especially, which brings us to really brings us to Benedict himself. So Green, did you jump into the farm?
No, I was heading to the tower.
Okay.
Because I was gonna, who was it? Trigger got to it before I did. So
okay, so Kadi is at the tower. Perfect. Okay, so you want to jump into Benedict? That kind of is the 9940 that we have on tonight's major focus.
Yeah. So, right. Are we doing the who, what, where, when?
Yes, let's do a quick biography run or biography little set aside for him.
So, Benedict 44, or Benedict 9940. I've been calling him Benedict 44 all week, and I don't know why. But maybe it's Benedict Cumberbatch's age. I have no idea. I don't know. But Benedict...
That's strange.
A sweeper bot, a yellow sweeper bot, and this is actually important because I went back into D1 and checked. The sweeper bot that's in between the plaza area and the hangar is orange in D1. The only yellow sweeper bot we had in D1 was the one that showed up during the Festival of the Lost event. But so Benedict,
who was voiced by one and only Cortana.
Yeah. But the voicing in D2 is different.
Correct, yeah.
Benedict 9940 is a yellow sweeper bot, or at least pretends to be a sweeper bot, or has programming to act like a sweeper bot. He is a frame that is loyal to the Emperor Callus. There's lots of little voice lines, and he is the vendor rep for the raid, essentially. You're going to get stuff from him if you get raid tokens. He is hidden beneath Hawthorne, and actually he's pretty much directly beneath Hawthorne, but you have to go down 2 levels. So if you're going to run between Icor and the New Monarchy faction rep, Hideo, there's actually a hallway you can go down some stairs, and he'll be down there. When he appeared is right when the Leviathan raid released. He is the second sweeper bot to show up in the D2 tower. The only other sweeper bot, and I went through and double checked this, the only other sweeper bot that is in the D2 tower is between the main plaza area and the bazaar, which is where Benedict shows up later. And why he acts so weird and creepy with the red eye is he was reprogrammed, or at least we believe he was reprogrammed by Callus. He was reprogrammed for sure, but whether or not it was by Callus, I still think is slightly debatable, and that's something I'm going to bring up as far as theory of mine a little bit later. But that's kind of the who, what, where, when, why for Benedict. I think we're going to dive a little bit more into kind of the history behind the frames and why Benedict being who he is now is a little unnerving beyond the fact that he appears to be a traitor, quote unquote.
Yeah, and I guess the question that I have on that entire concept is, and Justin and I are kind of having a side on our chat right now about something along the same lines, is like when it comes to frames and it comes to, I mean, exos are a different kind of topic, but like frames, especially because of the way that frames are kind of explained, you know, the concept of gender, the concept of even a degree of free will, I kind of hesitate to ascribe to that particular like view. And that's all to go back to kind of your comment about, you know, the Benedict as a traitor. Like I hesitate to call him I hesitate to call Benedict a traitor because frames are, with very few exceptions, frames are always portrayed as being 100% dictated by their base program. Like there's not a they have the capacity for like machine learning to a degree, and we'll talk about that in just a second when we compare tower frames to reef frames.
I can debate that too.
Right? No. And yeah, Justin, I know you had something. Yeah, go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think the reference to Benedict as a traitor, and I think everyone knows the Benedict that most people have in mind when they speak of Benedict as a traitor. I think the traitor tag is mostly symbolic. I mean, I would liken a subverted frame to requisitioned equipment more than I would, you know, like a turned spy. Like he's not at the level of sentience to betray a loyalty that I think is required for him to have betrayed someone.
I would almost agree with you both on that one. I actually will disagree with both of you, for sure.
Nice.
And this is, I feel, kind of a rare thing for me to say, but and this is actually coming from the voice lines from the Festival of Lost in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
They, at least that sweeper bot in particular, had some very, very existential thoughts.
True, with the broom.
Beyond a directive. Yeah. I mean, there was beyond just the I'm missing my broom thing. There's like things like life is meaningless. There's just a lot of despair and emotion brought into it, which makes me feel like, besides the directive thing that he was missing his broom part of the time, or actually she was missing her broom. I know he and she is still kind of a fluctuating type thing, but there seems to be more than they're just a robot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely more than a robot, but I think a frame, and this is just my feeling, this is not fact or confirmed in any way, shape, or form, but I think a frame is much more constrained by its base programming than, say, a full-fledged exo.
Mm-hmm.
Because the exo has a somewhat organic capacity to grow and exponentially multiply, you know, the number of emotional and intellectual connections it can make between subjects. Whereas a frame, I think, is much more. If the way I think of a frame is like the difference between a frame and an exo, I think of a frame like Pong. Like you've got this little ball bouncing between these two paddles, small box, right?
Right.
And unpredictable things can happen between the two paddles, you know, that you might not expect, but it's all happening in this small window, this small, and I was totally doing my hands like the Pong paddles the whole time I was talking about that. So, but an exo is much more like an open world RPG where there's a lot more room for things like emotion and more human-like characteristics to kind of be fostered. And I'm not saying that they're just, appliances. I'm just saying it would be really hard for me to term a frame as a traitor when, I view a frame a lot like I view a Roomba.
Oh yeah, I don't. The assigning the traitor thing, it is. It's very
it's
much
awesome
so. It's
with the
it's
name,
awesome, right? But it's also very much so more because of the naming convention that they gave him, the Benedict Arnold type bot.
Also, who gave him that name?
Right.
Is Callus well read on the American? What's going on here?
No, but I think somebody else might be. But that's
yeah. But I mean,
again,
but that brings
my theory later.
Yeah, but that brings up I mean, so I guess this is where I'm going to jump in just real quick, because I view frames, and actually this kind of bleeds into reality too, because we have a word for this phenomena, and that's to anthropomorphize things, and that is to literally attribute human personality or human thought to things that are not human, whether that be a thing or an animal. A very common example is the Easter Bunny as an anthropomorphized rabbit. You see this a lot in like Looney Tunes cartoon. Like this is a very, very popular thing. And as we kind of and this is kind of taking a step into our reality for a second, as we step into an age where you have a lot more artificial intelligence, you have a lot more software that is being built for machine learning, it's an important distinction to keep in mind that at the end of the day, these particular aspects are not human. They don't have, as
Right.
weird as it is to say, they don't have the ability to feel emotion. Now, to step back into Destiny, this is obviously where fiction, comes in, and I understand, and I get what you're saying, and I guess I struggle with this because, I don't know if this is Bungie as a writer kind of having fun, like having joking with us, but at the same time, I don't know if Frank, because there's a difference between a robot that can have a sense of frustration, like with what you're saying with the sweepbot. I completely get that, but at the same time, when you see the frames, you also see the reframe. I keep going back to the reframes because, and let me pull up the Grimoire card with this real quick, because I think this will maybe help a little bit. This is Grimoire from Destiny 1. It's reef frames, and it says many of the reef's oldest frames were salvaged from cargo ships that washed up on the reef hundreds of years ago. In the city, and this is green, I think, and I'll let you correct me here if I'm wrong, but I think this is kind of what you're saying. And it goes on to say, in the city, frames are equipped with a basic learning capacity, able to mimic behavioral and personality quirks. Not so in the reef. There, frames are seen as computers with robotic appendages, no more, no less. The reef cryptarchy is careful to back up and encrypt all data stored on frames and to wipe the frame's processors on a regular basis. So, frames in the reef are much more they're seen much more as that kind of that appliance. They're a tool. They're not a person. They're not this and that. Whereas in the tower, it kind of is. They're given like this kind of like acceptance of self.
It's a semantics thing that we're arguing,
and that's possible, and that's why I wanted to make sure if I was I wanted to make sure I was understanding that. So
the concept of a traitor is, if you take it to the bare bones of it, it is literally somebody who trades sides and helps the other side, right? That's like
right.
the bare bones of it. Whether or not any traitor is not going to necessarily be vindictive in it. They may be a traitor because they were pushed into it or forced into it in various ways. They're still a traitor because they changed sides. That doesn't mean that they were vindictive in how they're doing it. Or there's many examples in history where that has happened, where they don't start out trying to be vindictive and changing and causing issues because they want to cause chaos. A lot of times they're doing it because they're trying to save family members or they were coerced in other ways. So Sweeperbot being a traitor, yes, Sweeperbot didn't necessarily have the emotional consciousness to be able to make that decision necessarily to become a traitor, but he was still coerced and changed in a way. Literally, he was reprogrammed to be on the other side while still gathering information from our side. That's all that I mean by traitor. I don't necessarily mean that he consciously switched sides because he's being a big jerkbag.
I think, and I'm going to let Justin speak real quick, but I think my at least hair splitting is coming down to the idea of like, to betray a side implies that you have the ability to take sides. And I think the frames, my argument to that is that I don't think traitor is, I think you're right, Green. I think we are splitting hairs semantically.
But I love it.
I love it. But I think the problem that I have with the referring to, him as a traitor is that I don't even know if frames in and of themselves, like just any frame in themselves, like when you say traitor, that means that you were on a side to begin with. And I think frames, it's like a vacuum cleaner. And I know that's a gross oversimplification, but like
their purpose is to help our side. I mean, it would be like, I guess, saying that a smart bomb type thing being stolen and used for the other side cannot necessarily be called a traitor. Because it's still just a tool. But I don't know. It's hard to argue the semantics of it if there's no personality, but there is somewhat of a personality.
Right, and that's,
it's just really, it's splitting hairs.
It is.
Because we're on the cusp of actual personalities with AI, almost AIs. They're not quite AIs at that point.
Yeah, I kind of think in frames, what we see as personality is actually actually what we perceive to be personality in some of our AI and in our everyday life. Like, say, for example, Siri or Alexa and some of these other AI programs that react and interact with you verbally, what we perceive as being personality that's imparted by inflection of voice and a voice actor giving this thing lines is not personality. It's just the random set of pre-programmed responses that, yes, there are thousands of permutations of that, and over time, even those very limited dumb AIs will kind of adapt to you, but we kind of assign personality to it where there isn't any, and we are splitting hairs, and I just wanted a chance to split my own hair. So basically, I think that if someone beats me up and steals my toaster, every piece of toast that toaster makes for the guy who beat me up is not a betrayal. Like, I think beings that are incapable of having principles, allegiances, and emotions are incapable of betraying anything. Like, the only thing Benedict could betray is his programming, and he's incapable of that at present.
Yeah,
that might be completely way off base too. I mean, that's kind of left field.
Well, and kind of like what Pins is bringing up in chat right now is the laws of robotics. And we've kind of danced around this particular topic in regards to Destiny's AI and Destiny's frames and all that multiple times. Especially with exos and stuff like that. And Green, I agree. We don't really have an example. I'm sorry. I'm reading out of chat for those of you on the podcast. Green responded with, there was no example of the 3 laws being part of this world and in regards to Destiny's. And I kind of agree with that because the thing is like, Asimov's law of robotics is a very common threshold for that. And let me see if I can pull them up real quick to make sure that I don't butcher them. But, I think that the portrayal of Asimov's 3 laws, and I mean, like, and this is all, and that's just the 3 laws, you have the 0th law also, which is, I think, the one that we particularly got into a while back. But the 3 laws of robotics, according to Asimov, is the first one is a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Second law is a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And then the third law is a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws. And this is all built around, like I said, Isaac Asimov's short fiction. And then later, actually, Asimov himself made slight modifications. And, this is during the beginning of the era of really science fiction. So really good books, by the way. If you haven't read any of Asimov's, you need to fix that immediately.
Ultron, read none of those.
Wow.
There's your Disney reference.
Yeah.
So then later, actually, I think it was a number of years later, when Asimov kind of expanded robotics in his own works from beyond just like androids into robots that had been, like government level and whole planet civilization level entities. He added a 4th, or what's called the 0th law. And this one is one that precedes the others. And it says a robot may not harm humanity or by inaction allow humanity to come to harm. And so there's a lot of ethical, philosophical debates around these laws. They're quoted all the time when it comes to AI. And so like there's a lot of debate about that.
Did to the algorithm, what he just
did? With the 0th law, the 0th law
chart. He just there's a bunch of people throwing paper in the air.
He just threw it out the window at that point. Like I love watching the arguments on the ethics of artificial intelligence when these things get introduced, because it's like you literally see like half the room just just get up and walk out. But, I guess to go back and this is kind of along the lines of, what we've been kind of dancing around is these ideas of like, is a frame capable? I mean, like so like when you're talking about laws of robotics, if you're taking a true Asimovian approach, these are not axioms that are allowed to be like, that you can't get around them. They're in the base programming. And so, and that's arguably not how real programs work, because everything is kind of configurable if you know what you're doing within programs. And so this is kind of the interesting thing. And then this goes back to what, Green's response to Pens in chat was, we don't have examples of this. Like we don't. We actually have examples of frames doing the exact opposite of this, with the Iron Lords. Good. Yeah. I mean, with Rasputin, kind of a nod to the upcoming DLC that we're going to see, that's probably going to be a component of it. since it's going to be around war mines, and one of the big things that war mines do is they control military assets. Well, frames are assets that have military purpose. And so, like, I mean, as much as I love the idea of like the Asimovian laws and laws of robotics in Destiny, I really have to agree with Green. I don't think they apply.
Well,
What does the presence of non-human elements
Right? Yeah.
do
And
to
then
those laws? I mean,
right? Yeah. And that's another Green. Go for it.
no, I was just going to say, here's a question for you. Are frames self-sustaining?
What do you mean? Like, are they able to repair themselves?
Well,
And
frames are... Rasputin calls frames one of his, right? Because they were originally part of Rasputin's military directive, right?
well, I took that particular. Are you talking about when he's confronting the stranger, or what we assume is the stranger?
You're not one of mine.
Yes.
I assume that he was talking to an exo.
Right, but if frames... Here's where I'm going with this. If
Okay.
frames are part of Rasputin, and Rasputin controls them, or at least he used to control them, we do know he can retake control of them, because the way he used them during the Iron Lord battle, or back in the Dark Ages.
The Siva
essentially.
crisis.
Is Rasputin still controlling part of the programming? Is there like a radio signal where Rasputin sends it out and controls the frames? Or can Rasputin regain control of the frames? I mean, we know he can modify electronics. He already did it with our Ghost. Yes, I do mean like Arecibo.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, so it would be interesting to see if Rasputin would take control of the city frames. We do know there's tampering going on with the city frames, but that goes to our scannable that we were talking about earlier. Which, if you wanted to, we could actually bring that up now.
Yeah, let's do.
So, in the tower, in the hangar, over by pretty much underneath Future War Cult, and right before you get to Dead Orbit, there is a scannable. There's a rack of Red Jack 9940s. Which, by the way, the Red Jacks do have slight modifications compared to the other 9940s. They are more heavily armored. Plus, they have a different kind of eye. So, Sweeperbot has just a very blue bulbous-like type eye that is square. And the 9940s that are Red Jacks have that same square, but there's slight shielding going around the outside of them, and they have a red beam that travels up and down the eye like it's constantly scanning. It's a fun little fact, even the dead frames have that red line going up and down in Destiny. Yeah, I went back and played Homecoming the other day, and I noticed that the dead frames still have it.
That makes sense, because a lot of those dead frames would be Red Jacks.
Yes. But just the fact that they're dead, the line's still moving, the scanning is still happening. I just thought that was interesting. But there's some tampering that has been happening on that rack. So the Ghost scans it and says, somebody's been trying to modify one of Shaq's Red Jacks, but all of the interface history shows is accessed by other frames. And I lost my thing real quick. Other frames, Arcite and Dahlia. It says over and over Arcite and Dahlia. So could Rasputin be trying to remotely modify, or is Arcite and Dahlia modifying them? Or Arcite and Dahlia compromised?
Well, and I guess... See, and I guess I read... Well, right, but that goes back to, if you look on Ishtar, if you look up Dahlia, if you look at Dahlia, she has a tendency to overwrite the frames, right? I think Arcite or Archite, however you want to say it, I don't know. Yeah, That's a good question, and I don't know necessarily if it's as nefarious as
It
we're
appears to be.
thinking. We're thinking
Mhm.
because Archite and Dahlia have been given basically, command of Redjacks. Like they're second only to Shax, it seems,
Right.
as far as that. And so when you're dealing with the Redjacks, I think you have to take into consideration that Archite and Dahlia both are probably going to be the ones that are doing most of the reprogramming. But I can
The thing
definitely
is
see
that
with
only-
Benedict, being
Right.
present, that being kind of painted in a darker tone.
It can be. I mean, it could be taken a few different ways. It could be there's somebody trying to modify one of them by messing with the programming via satellite reprogramming. There could be literally the Benedict is trying to modify another one of the frames to be able to help with his directive, whatever that may be. It could be Arcite and Dahlia are just experimenting, which that would imply creativity or anything like that on one of the frames.
Yeah, and that kind of throws out the entire semantic debate that we had too, because if Archite and Dahlia are able to do that on their own, then that arguably paints a picture of their having gained enough of these quirks and personalities that they've actually transcended mimicry and are arguably generating their own.
The way I read it is I don't think Dahlia and Arcite are the ones actually doing the modifications to the tampering, is what it kind of implies. I don't think it's those two. I just think those two are the only ones that have been recorded recently, and that they're missing whoever actually was messing with it.
So I actually think,
okay.
like Dahlia specifically, like I think Dahlia has been, for lack of a better word, tricked out by Shax to a certain degree. She's the only frame who can can I phrase this, upload combat orders to other frames, and I think she only is able to be modified by Arcite. Is that correct?
I don't know, like, if we ever get that answered, because you also, when Dahlia is spoken of in some of the ghost fragments from Destiny 1, you see the engineers having conversations about when they try to, like, resync her with the Redjack network, I guess, if you could call it that. How she's like, she keeps overriding others that they sync up with her. Like, her programming, for whatever reason, is just really stubborn. And yes, I just anthropomorphized programming, so you can call me out on that. But like, they are talking about like how when they go to resync her, it causes a lot of problems, and that was kind of when they started actually deferring to her as the alpha designate. Because they're like, if she keeps coming back, obviously something's going right. So
it's well, this is in the Destinypedia personality and traits section for Dahlia. It says, maybe we should give her alpha permissions. Let her call formations. Give it another week. If she comes back, we'll give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the technicians that worked on her. But as she went through so much combat, her learned expertise became so vast that they let her begin to kind of organize combat tactics. And I could see there being, I mean, there's not an official one, but I could see there being a designate of a command frame. You know what I mean? All it would really take is a bigger, computing capacity. I mean, a little more armor, a little. I mean, it's not that far fetched to think that they could, trick out a frame who had made it through so many battles to be able to link with more frames. And I think what all is.
Well, and Dahlia is also the one that has the amazingly hilarious line in Ghost Fragment Asylum. She's talking to a Titan. They're getting ready to retake a training ground, and the Titan says, "I asked for more guardians, but they only gave me you. The city needs more training grounds, and together that's what we'll provide." Dahlia's response is, "I might do that, or I might explode." And the Titan then kind of goes back and it's like, "That's all I ask," which kind of makes me think that the Titan is actually Shaxx, but it's like,
I think it is, because I think that maybe
just love that conversation.
The beginning of the Crucible, finding the Crucible grounds. I want to make one correction. Earlier I said that the Festival of the Lost Sweeper bot was also yellow. It's not. It was orange. So all of D1 sweeper bots that were in the tower were orange with yellow highlights. And all of D2 sweeper bots are yellow.
Okay. Someone got a paint job.
So that may not be a huge big deal, but it could theoretically be a possible hint, but unlikely. Just wanted to clarify, though.
And also another clarification, Justin, the comment that you had about the alpha designate, that is from Ghost Fragment Skyshock. That's where you also hear them refer to her as the Antiquity, and also the quote of, "You can pull more fallen blades and bullets out of her chassis than Shax's armor."
Mm-hmm.
I like that one.
She actually apparently has more missions than Archite does. So yeah, she's logged more than 40 missions, and she keeps coming back. And this is, so to put that in perspective, though, Redjacks are dispensable. Like and that's the reason they're frames, is because they're sent in on basically suicide missions to retake these things. We see, what was it? I think it's Ghost Fragment Burning Shrine, where Archite is recapping the mission where frames were up against Vex, and like they were just getting decimated, except for Archite and Dahlia. And so yeah, it's the fact that Dahlia keeps coming back is an interesting thing. The other one that kind of came back, or the other kind of nod to Dahlia, is actually in Ghost Fragment Last Exit. So that is where you see her. Again, kind of as the last Jack standing, and you also see that she's described as being a natural for modifying Foundry gear. So kind of tying that back into the what we started on here. They say she's a natural for modifying Foundry gear. Her combat numbers are through the roof. And Dahlia's the last Jack standing, and maybe it's for the best, because the new frames have trouble data linking with her and Archite. The two of them have been around since the beginning, and their heuristic systems just keep rewriting everything. So, like, just by data linking with Dahlia and Archite, the newer frames of Redjacks are pretty much rewritten, and that's arguably because of those heuristic systems. And she's described as a frame that, quote, just helps just by being out there. So, she, by calling those, and I am assuming that's going back to that calling formations type stuff, she's the prime designate. In the field, she's kind of the commanding, if you will, the commanding officer for the Redjacks. And so, yeah, and so going back to the tower scan where you see, and Green, I see what you're saying about how you're reading it. They say someone's been trying to modify one of Shax's Redjacks, but all the interface. So I see that. I didn't catch that actually the first time I read it. I thought they were saying Archite and Dahlia were trying to read, but they are making a distinction there. Mm-hmm. So basically, someone is trying to hack the Redjacks, which is that opens up a whole nother can of worms, especially with the DLC that we're getting in May. Not just Benedict. I mean, because Benedict's kind of described, a lot of people assume that it's the loyalists that are reprogramming him, or Callus reprogram, whoever. And then that's not even taking into consideration Rasputin. Like, the Warmind itself is trying to modify the Regex,
Or, well, possibly modify. We don't know if he's still trying to do that.
Well, no, but I mean, that's what I mean, though, is we don't know, and we know that Rasputin has remoted into frames before, so it's not. Justin, sorry, I didn't see you, Justin.
Oh no, it's okay. I just wondered, Blue. I had a question for you. Did you read the word heuristic in the traditional sense of the definition, or the computer science sense?
I think that they're presenting it as the I mean, they're kind of the same, right? I mean, heuristic is just basically the process of learning something for themselves, and so when you're talking about heuristic processing, that's very akin to machine learning. So like it's basically you gain information through experience. Is how I kind of read it.
That's kind of how I read it, but the computer science definition was a little different. It was a lot more pragmatic. It was basically a technique designed for solving a problem more quickly when classic methods are too slow, or for finding an approximate solution when classic methods fail to find any exact solution.
Yeah, but I mean, even so, to kind of dive into that just for a second, like even that particular definition still at the base of it is about discovery through experience. It's tapping into a program's capacity to run through alternatives extremely fast.
It's past results, and then
and it calculates it can
like an algorithm.
What's the word that I'm looking for? Yeah, it's like a projection. It can project. So I guess in Destiny terms, what the Vex are doing in the Infinite Forest is a heuristic process, because they're testing theories out and they're projecting
it can approximate
approximate outcomes based on information that they have. And so like a heuristic function is, right. It's basically logarithms that are being examined. It's such a rabbit warren of a thing.
Said that, my window went. I was like, I'm sorry.
In machine, heuristics is the basis of all machine learning and artificial intelligence. That's like the entire crux of the entire concept.
And I kind of feel like if it was the crux of human learning, we might be better off. But
well, it kind of is, right? Heuristics is literally the process of learning through experience. Now, whether or not I'm going to get in trouble saying this, whether or not you retain the information that you gain is a completely different conversation. But the process of learning through experience, this is in regards to humanity, everyone as a kid put their hand on a stove. Right. If you were unlucky enough, you had the coil, the stupid coil.
No,
I hate those things.
I actually had a gas range.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You actually tried to light yourself on fire.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. You should say that. My grandma ran the gas range in the kitchen every morning before we got up to make the kitchen warm. And I got up one morning and I was warming myself and had one of those cool t-shirts, the ones It was short sleeved,
Yeah.
and it had the solid color in the middle, and then the different colored sleeves, and then a hood of the same color. And I was warming myself. I turned around, and caught my hood on fire.
Oh, no!
And I walked into the other room, and my brother started beating my ass. And then I didn't know why, but he was putting me out. And yeah. On a side note, Green and I are going to start a techno pop band called the Heuristics.
Yes.
Yes. That's my contribution.
Sorry. That's just the scary thing is I knew exactly when you were saying your grandpa did the gas stove thing. I'm like, I know exactly.
Oh,
my grandparents did the same thing with theirs. But yeah, like heuristics is, it's arguably one of the underlying foundation blocks to not just machine learning, but I mean any process of gaining information and not even just gaining information, because heuristics takes it further. It's not just I get the data back. It's I take that data and I actually turn around and apply it back into the world, and that changes my perception of the world and how I interact with it. And that's where machine learning comes from, is because this is all about putting a machine in a position that there isn't an algorithm already designed. You see this a lot with the idea of teaching robots how to play chess, teaching robots how to, I was just listening to a couple TED Talks about chatbots, and like how they're programming them to be conversationalistic. And so like there's a bot that I'm kind of working on right now with our company, in which you literally can ask it a question. Like our internal associates can ask it a question. They don't have to, if you're in our Discord server, you have to put in a specific command to get a cookie cutter response back from the bot. We're kind of taking that further, and we're saying if you can ask it a question, you allow that machine, that AI program, to register that the question can come in a variety of different ways. It doesn't have to be in a set format. And so then what that takes is that question, reformats it back into a basic command, and then applies it to the information that it has, and then provides an answer to that. And so you have a much more conversationalist. You see this a lot with Cortana, with Siri, with what's the other one? Alexa. Is Alexa the Amazon one?
Yeah.
You see that conversationalistic step. That's part of the heuristic machine learning process. Is that, and Justin was talking about earlier with Siri, how it starts gaining, it starts understanding the quirks of the operator. That's heuristic learning. This is all machine learning that is kind of gaining information and using that information to reformat its experience of the world, and then reformat how it is interacting with the world. That is at the core, that is heuristics. But I think, Green, you wanted to jump into I think you called it the notorious whistling protocol.
Well, okay. In D1, it's one of my favorite things that SweeperBot did. Is if you go and stand by the SweeperBot, and it'll still do it to this day in D1, the SweeperBot between the main area and the hangar, if you go and stand by it, sometimes they'll start to try to whistle. And it's the most pathetic try to whistle type thing ever. But we had an upgrade on that in D2 where the whistling protocol got fixed, and they have the coolest whistling that they can do, or at least that one SweeperBot can do.
I mean, to be fair though, what's really cool about that SweeperBot is the physical context in which we find that SweeperBot.
Oh my god, the fact that he's a ninja. He's a ninja. He took out all the cabal around him. And then just proceeded to sweep and swipe the blood all over the ground.
I just love that part where, but
with. Oh my god!
If I remember, I'm trying to remember, but isn't like this part that he's sweeping completely clean? Like everywhere else, there's like gore. Is it? Did it?
No.
Get okay?
He's wiping the blood on the ground. It's like paintbrushing. He's just painting the blood of his enemies all over the floor because he is that gruesome of a character. He is the most disrespectful character in the game. No,
I just love Bice. Everything else is broken, but we fixed that.
Yeah. Well, whether or not we fixed it or not, that's
fair.
I mean,
maybe he just got tired of waiting for us to fix it.
Well, I mean, there's also kind of the idea of Lysander took his broom away from him originally, which is a whole nother kind of tangent you can take this on if the writers really wanted to go down this road. Lysander could have been the one to take it originally. He gets his broom back because we give him his broom back after Festival of the Lost. Then Sweeperbot just disappears. At least that one, because Sweeperbot didn't the one between the hangar and the bay, or in the middle area, didn't disappear. There appeared another Sweeperbot, the one that was standing by the postmaster, that was missing it.
Right. Yeah.
So there were two Sweeperbots in the tower at that point. And then after Festival of the Lost, that Sweeperbot by the postmaster is gone. So Lysander took the broom originally. Could Lysander have messed with them continually after that? I don't know. That's they could make that happen and make that another thing with the anyway. Yeah, that's a fun Concordat tangent that we can go down.
Oh my gosh, that would be really kind of interesting, as the Concordats just playing tricks on all the Sweeperbots.
Or the Concordat is siding with Callus, and Sweeperbot had the beginning of his programming started before Lysander. Yeah, Lysander would. If he was with Callus, and he started reprogramming Sweeperbot, which fixed the whistling protocol, and all the Cabal that were killed around him were Red Legion Cabal. There weren't any of Callus's Cabal necessarily, because Callus wasn't even technically active at that point. Yeah.
The other thing that also makes me think of is if you remember Bannerfall, there was a Sweeperbot on Bannerfall that was imprisoned.
I forgot about that.
Poor Sweeperbot's like stuck in a closet and it can't go anywhere. Felt bad for that thing.
Interesting.
And it was on the Concordat side of the map.
Yeah. I have one fun little factoid about Sweeperbot before we start to wrap things up.
Mm-hmm.
There's one quote from the Festival of the Lost, and there's actually a lot of references to it, but this quote really strongly references Hamlet.
Mm-hmm.
But in that
sweep of death. Yeah.
What dreams may come, which actually is a reference to Hamlet's speech, the to be or not to be. There's a line that says, "For in that sleep, not sweep, sleep, S-L-E-E-P, of death, what dreams may come." So our Sweeperbot is kind of a Hamlet character.
But I'm trying to remember, isn't Who is the Thief? Wasn't that something
also in Shakespeare? It's
not necessarily Shakespeare, but I know there's logic problems with Who is the Thief. But wasn't there?
Oh, as far as whether or not Lysander took it?
No. There's a quote that says, one of the Sweeperbot's quote is, "Who is the thief? Who is the thief?"
Yes.
Or is that, "Who is the thief? Who is the thief?" And like, I swear that was another nod to I can't find it right now. And then there's the ever famous, "What does the broom say?" Broom, broom,
broom. I love that. The only joke we ever get from Sweeperbot. I mean, there's so many like slight nods to Shakespearean type writing.
All is lost.
Candle.
All is lost.
Mm-hmm. Life is meaningless.
They celebrate lost souls, but what about lost things?
Mm-hmm. The other thing is, here's another thing that makes me wonder if Sweeperbot already had some tampering happening, is there's a line that says malfunctional frame will report for recycling. So if he went to recycling afterwards, which that could theoretically be like, okay, I don't have my broom, so I can't complete my directive, so I'm malfunctioning. That could mean that, but it could also mean that he's got something else happening to him. He's being tampered with, or maybe they pick him up out of the recycling bin and start messing with him. I don't know. That poor sweeper bot.
But to this day, the best piece of NPC dialogue from a frame is from Katie, 5530.
Which one? Which one? It has like tons of good ones. What is
the
a
best one?
What is a Zur?
Inappropriate picture message received from Terry.
I forgot about that one.
Well, and then,
my favorite one.
Is it Roni is the quarterback? Like Roni has a couple really good ones that Kate is constantly trying to get Roni to approve things that it's not supposed to. And like there's a couple idle dialogues from Roni that are like, stop, Cade, I will report you. And it's just, oh my gosh. But yeah, Katie has a lot of good ones. Books? Titan books? The Warlock books float. Titan books are as heavy as rocks.
Yeah.
Titan books are rocks.
That's actually a Katie one.
I thought, wasn't the inappropriate... All right, I'm going to have to look this up now because...
Yeah, it's full of rocks. Books for the Titans. Too heavy.
And
then apparently...
Katie likes saying, oh dear, message for Shax, oh dear, he hits.
Yeah, so apparently Katie and Shax are involved in a domestic. So
Shax is a frame hitter.
Yeah.
That's sad.
He's pretty close at Shax. He's pretty close to Shaft. Shaft like to hit people. So I'm just saying. I like package for the Warlock. Stop floating. Bad package.
Bad package.
Oh God.
Yeah, I think I want to say that it was Roni that actually had the quote about Cade.
About what?
The inappropriate.
No, that's a Katie.
Really?
God, if we have a frame uprising, there's so many. Cade's so dead. If we have a frame uprising,
Cade is like playing tricks on all of them. Like
he's gonna be the first to die if the flames uprise because they're just gonna enact.
They're going after him.
Actually, Destinypedia has no.
I was about to say they don't have anything for Roni.
Yeah, doesn't have anything.
Well, so I guess the debate still comes down to, is Benedict a traitor?
I don't want to split hairs.
Well, a couple weeks ago, someone stole my Bluetooth headset. I don't feel like my Bluetooth headset is betraying me right now. I'm just saying.
I just think that there's a possible conversion of an asset. Whether or not that's means technically traitor or not traitor.
Oh, no.
Still a bad guy at this point. He is.
No, he ain't a bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
he is creepy.
Oh yeah,
well
he's
done.
Creepy.
I mean, well done,
and
Bungie,
it bugs
for
me.
That animation.
Yeah,
it bugs me. His programming like description is like driving me up a wall.
Like what it means, the AMP semicolon. _
Yeah, so like I mean, like there's a weird combination of like HTML character class and then just like random stuff. I think wasn't it someone that was like, yeah, this is Hollywood OS. Is what it was. I was like, yeah, it's kind of. I'm like, that's kind of the feeling I'm starting to get with it.
Look, Blue, I'm a little upset, and I don't know how you could be so callous.
Oh, well, okay. We haven't had many puns this episode. It's fine. Gosh. He is definitely untrustworthy.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I guess the thing too is like some of the so first off, finding quotes from Benedict is next to impossible. FYI, for anyone out there, it's really annoying. So I did manage to find Black Flag. Do you rather speak in binary? I like R2D2, so you should probably be careful what you ask me.
And binary is easier to decipher.
Yeah, but like there's some quotes that I really liked from him. Like all these lights could be there's a lot of quotes of his that tie into the shadows of Callus that we know of. Like you are traveler spawn. That kind of goes back to Feltrock, who refers to Guardians as traveler spawn. You have no idea what is coming. When a shadow falls, another rises. All these lights could be shadows. And so there's a lot of kind of like, yeah, I'm obligated to remind you not to talk about classified operations in public spaces.
Which is a weird one if you think about it.
I love it. I love that one.
That's such a strange quote for him to say if he's like spying on us or whatever and sending back information.
But he's not spying on us. He's spying on the tower, and we are now associated with him.
Oh,
we are running.
To talk about Callus,
right? We are the ones carrying out the classified operations. So he is is our handler, if you think about it.
Right. That's okay.
Which kind of paints it also in a bit of a different picture, because that means that any Guardian who does business with him, they're traitors.
They don't even know they are on the wrong side.
Yeah, and that goes back to Callus too. Callus views everything as kind of this, it's a amorphous universe, and there's not
everything can be bought in Callus's eyes.
Yeah, Emperor Callus owns the path.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's some amazing quotes from Benedict, and one of the big ones is he refers to the Leviathan when you first encounter him. He says, "You have completed the challenge of the Emperor. He is amused by your potential. You have greatness in your future, and perhaps someday, but that is not for I, a humble servant, to say. Embrace his name. All glory to the Emperor." And I think that introduces the idea that Benedict is truly has been truly placed there, not just as a spy, but also as a Trojan horse, if you will, to convert others to the Emperor.
His graciousness. I'm sorry, the talk.
Reap the reward from his highness.
That just kind of drives. And speaking of drives me crazy, the animation when you click into him, whether you're clicking X or you're clicking square or whatever to open up his dialogue to interact with him facing down and just that slight head turn where the eye turns red and looks at you. That is the creepiest animation I have ever seen in a video game to date. Period. Do I have a clip of that? I can make a clip of that. Do I have a clip of that? Is what I heard.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's on that note. It's late o'clock. We actually have been asked to kind of wrap up. Justin, I know you had a couple things. I have an early morning as well tomorrow. What are we missing on Benedict, just to kind of bring it back into a conclusion real quick? I think we covered most of it, but I wanted to.
Well, there's so little written evidence at this point because we're creating history right now, and Benedict is a new character, so there's nothing in archives, which is what I kind of wanted to point out in the summary. It's all observation and keeping an eye on the little bugger.
All right. Well, let's run through shoutouts then, shall we?
Yeah.
What do you got, Green?
My shout out goes to the Bungie animating team for making a creepy robot. And apparently I have to go find a clip of it for Blue because he wants it.
I wants it. I needs it.
Give it back to us.
It's also for having Justin week. He just giggles in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, Justin, did you watch the clip that we sent you from last week's episode?
What did you send me?
Oh God, the Monster Hunter clip,
The Monster Hunter one?
The dragon.
Oh no!
All right, I'll send it to him.
You go find it, but
this is apparently the entire reason that Beard really got excited. He wanted to hear your reaction to it.
Was it?
Bife also got really excited.
Yeah, Bife actually did get excited for it too.
Was it the Wiggler helmet?
No, but we did talk about the Wiggler helmet. We did talk about the Wiggler helmet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching it real quick before I do my shout out.
Yes, leave your mic on because everyone wants to know your reaction to it.
Which I know is super professional.
I'm going to kind of talk a little bit over while he's watching it, and I'm sure he's going to interrupt me with a reaction here anytime soon. But if you guys are listening to this, make sure that you give a shout out to Mylan for putting together the survey, and thank you to anybody in our community who responded to Mylan's survey. He's been compiling all that information to take to Bungie to let them know that the community. I love this. I love having like my dialogue and then just him in the background, like so gross. I'm dying. But thank you to those of you who responded to that survey. You guys are awesome. Mylan's breaking down all 4,000 responses, and I'm sure he has more because I know Bife put out a video pretty recently about it too. So thank you for those of you who responded to that survey. That helps us present our case to Bungie to help make the game more what we want it to be. How's that video, Justin?
That's awful.
We should put a link of that in chat so they can watch it.
That was so wrong.
It's
so wrong.
But at the end, he was like, lick. Like, how creepy is a snake? He's like, I'm just going to look at you and taste the air. So creepy.
So, Justin, what shout-outs do you have?
Okay, so this is going to seem weird coming from me, but all week long, I've had a YouTube obsession, and it is no bounds. And I've got a shout-out. And that's to the Mighty Mongoose, because I've been addicted. I've been addicted to Mongoose versus Cobra videos.
Oh yeah.
There is one in particular from the Smithsonian Channel where the Mongoose does like this crazy backflip over it's nuts. It's nuts. So Mongoose, do what you do. You do you. If a Mongoose had a Patreon, I'd go broke. So, yeah, and also,
I can just imagine what the Mongoose Patreon. Mongoose is hunting cobras. Mongoose hates snake. You hate snake, love Mongoose. That would be what it would look like, and then you'd be like, love Mongoose, hate snake. Thanks, Mongoose. Kill snake. Mongoose kill snake. Thank you. Mongoose love you. Hate snake. Love Mongoose.
Love letter by Justin.
Ricky ticky ticky.
Yes.
Oh, I hate those. I think actually those two snakes in Ricky Tikki Tavi, Nag and Nagaina, might be my source of my hate for snakes. because the one snake was like, "We'll stay by the toilet and kill the man because when he poops, he will not have the fire stick." So creepy.
So now there's nightmares for anybody listening to the episode.
That's exactly how that sounds. Watch Ricky Tikki Tavi.
Well, then Nagina's like, I'm going to go after the kid.
Yeah. And then Ricky Tikki Tavi is like, "Oh, I'm going to kill all your kids. Just jump on your kids." And
God,
he's just jumping on them. Yeah. Killing baby snakes is fun.
Comments by Justin are not endorsed or supported by Focus Fire Chat.
Look, I stand by this. You can put bow ties and hats and monocles on them all you want. They're still cold-blooded, legless, soulless, freaking demons of hell. That's my shout out. I don't feel like I shouted
That's
out.
my shout out.
Shout out to snakes.
Yeah, and also shout out to everybody who did not harass me for falling asleep 2 weeks in a row. So, yeah.
Well, like I said at the beginning, we are actually taking next week off, but the poll is up this weekend for the following topic after that. And then other than that, just, like you guys have been saying, thank you so much for the amazing feedback, actually. Listening to Mylan as he goes through and compiles a lot of that, there's been a significant amount of really good feedback. And it's really cool seeing a lot of people come together and offer really constructive criticism. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's criticism, but it's very constructive, the vast majority of it. So, now we're talking God of War. But yes, so definitely that. And then, like I said, I think most of us are going to be taking off here pretty shortly, but we will stick around as always for a very short after show. So here we go.
After show.
With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our other sites can also be found with our episode archives over on the new FocusFireChat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any questions or comments for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. Also, be sure to check out all of our amazing podcast partners within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.